First up for today, we have Daisy Circuit. Daisy Circuit is like plain yogurt track form. There is nothing really interesting about it. It doesn't have a lot of like flavor or cool stuff. When you're playing, it just feels like you're driving in a big circle. And I know that every track is that, but with Daisy Circuit, it's just particularly boring. The one cool thing about playing this track online is probably the stair shortcut. And the reason I say that is because it's sort of risky when you go for it. You know, you never know if someone put a fib right at the top, or if there's someone in there with a star, you can get messed up, and maybe you drive through all that off-road and you can't even get the item at the top. Like, there's scenarios where the staircase shortcut is great, and then there's times where it can like ruin your race. And I think that's good for a track. I mean, it makes it feel less linear. There's the safe route and then the more dangerous route, and that's good. But that's really all there is that I have to say about this one. It's not like offensively bad. It's just, you know, moderately bad, I guess. It's very bland. Yeah. Daisy Circuit Online, gonna be giving that a 2.5 out of 5. So for time trials, Daisy Circuit is hard to play consistently, but it's very cool to watch. If you look at the high level times, they do this really cool thing on the staircase where they like hop at the right time and they can get a super low trick. Similar to online, the staircase is basically the only cool part of the track. You know, any track on time trials will be fun and cool to a certain extent, especially if it's flat. Just a random fun fact, this is also the only track in the entire game where the Staff Ghost uses the world record combo. At least currently. I don't know if someone will make it work somewhere else. You never know. You never know. Yeah, it's a pretty cool track. I feel like I would like it a lot more if I put more time into it. But it seems like a pretty fun one. I like it. I give Daisy Circuit a solid, respectable 4 out of 5 for time trials. It winds up with a 6.5 out of 10 with its combined scores, which puts it, like there. That seems right. For our next track, we have Koopa Cape. So Koopa Cape Online, just an incredible track. I love this track online. It's a good length. The track's not just over in the blink of an eye like some other ones. Lots of grass shortcuts, lots of little things you can do to save time. And it's cool when there's sort of like split paths and you gotta figure out if you wanna, you know, go off the river so you can get an item, or if you wanna stay on the river, which is a little faster, or even if you already have an item, you could do the little grass shortcut, but you might mess it up. And then there's like that thing in the tunnel where you're like hopping up on the ceiling, which is kind of wild. It's a difficult track to drive, but that's kind of okay. With a lot of tracks, they'll be difficult to drive, but that's not a huge problem online. I mean, it's similar to something like DK Summit. You know, DK Summit is very hard to drive, but consequentially, everyone will kind of be making mistakes online evenly, so it doesn't feel super unfair. You know, I like that about Koopa Cape. I don't think I have any real complaints about it online. I give Koopa Cape a 5 out of 5 as an online track. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. I wish I could say the same for Koopa Cape as a time trial track, but I can't because it's awful. Lots of things are inconsistent. It's just one of those annoying tracks where you feel like you have no idea where you're losing time, but you're always losing time. There's the Mander strat right before the waterfall where you like crash into the side and don't get any air off the ramp. That's pretty cool. And then there's the rock trick, which is like an easier alternative to that, which is also pretty cool. You can hop on the waterfall. That doesn't actually help at all, but, you know, pretty cool. Playing this track no glitch for time trials, though, I've just never been one to enjoy it. The glitch exists, and I will give credit where credit is due. In my opinion, it might just be the coolest looking glitch in the entire game. You like ride on the very edge inside of the wall, and then you turn around and you shroom off and get respawned behind the finish pole. And right now the world record does it with Spear, because I think that's the easiest vehicle to do it with. Technically you can do it with other vehicles, but it's a pretty cool glitch. I've never done it. I've heard conflicting info on it. Some people think it's really, really fun, and some people think it's just super annoying. But I will say, I mean, just having a glitch helps any track. It means there's more to do. It means there's an extra category. There's something else fun. You don't just gotta play it normally. The glitch is the only thing keeping this from being a 1. as a time trial track because actually driving it is just not fun at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a 2 out of 5 for time trials. Unfortunately, kind of got to do it. It gets a 5 for online. It gets a 2 for time trials. We're going to be putting Koopa Cape again in B tier, and it's going to go right above Ghost Valley 2. And now our B tier is 2 layers. Next up, Maple Tree Way. So Maple Tree Way is an online track. It's got some good stuff and some bad stuff. I feel like the 2 biggest problems are getting wheelie locked. There are 2 main spots where I feel like this happens. There's the first branch turn after the cannon, where you'll get stuck in your wheelie for too long and then you either have to slow down or just fall off the branch, and that's always, it's always frustrating to do that. Pretty much guaranteed to lose multiple spots in most online races. Same thing can happen on the turn right before the bouncy net at the end. I feel like those are the only 2 places where you'll get wheelie locked and it'll completely throw off your race. Besides there, doesn't feel like it's too bad, but that definitely does hurt the track. Because the track is just so difficult to drive as well, you're always going to have players that are like way behind and then some that are way ahead. Races are rarely ever going to be close, and I feel like that makes the game a little less fun in general. There's no chance of you cutting another place ahead. There's no chance of you falling behind if you don't completely throw. You're just locked in this position unless something crazy happens. I don't like tracks where the pack gets super duper spread apart, and I feel like that happens on Maple Tree Way. Not a lot of big shortcuts either, so there's not really any way to make spots back when you're playing online. There's the grass shortcut in the beginning, and if you're really gutsy, you can go for that turn skip, but nothing huge, really. One thing I do really like about it, actually, is the leaf piles. There will be items hidden in a lot of the leaf piles sometimes, and it's kind of random. I don't think it's consistent, like you'll always get certain items from certain leaf piles, but sometimes you'll find stars, a lot of times mushrooms fly out. I think green shells can. I'll have to double check. And I know bananas can. So it's kind of cool. You hit a leaf pile, and it adds a little extra strategy and a little extra something to the track that's unique. Other tracks don't really have that. It's still a fun track. It's a good length as well for online. Again, there's good stuff and bad stuff about it. I feel comfortable giving Maple Tree Way a 3 out of 5 for online. It's pretty whatever. Time trialing on Maple Tree Way, on the contrary, is totally horrendous. It is awful. It is despicable. I despise it. Maple Tree Way in time trials, it's like if you got all of the problems with Koopa Cape and just amplified them. The no glitch is way more technical, way more difficult. If you're playing at a high level, you got to worry about the turn skip, which is just stupid. Not stupid hard, but stupid inconsistent, and it can completely throw your run. And again, I'll give credit where credit is due. The glitch is really cool to look at. If you're playing it on Flame Runner, it's not that bad. The spear, the Benny strat, and the tree clip methods are both really, really difficult and just bleh. But hey, Maple Tree Way for time trials, it does have a glitch category, and once again, that's the only thing I'm saying will keep this from being a 1 out of 5. I'm going to give Maple Tree Way a 1.5 for time trials, and I feel like I'm being pretty generous with that because I don't like it at all. But a 1.5 out of 5 plus a 3 for online gives it a grand total of a 4.5. And a 4.5 gives Maple Tree Way a nice spot in C tier. I feel like that's the right spot, right? Definitely worse than Charlotte Land, Luigi Circuit, or Shy Guy Beach. Yeah, it's right there. Grumble Volcano. When you're playing Grumble Volcano online, it feels like it is 90% the shortcut and 10% everything else. If you can do the rock hop, it does not matter how bad you play. Just pull a mushroom, do the rock hop, or do the respawn, and you're good to go. This might make it sound sort of like an item-heavy track, something like Mario Circuit or Luigi Circuit, but this one is a lot better online. It's just really fun. It feels like you're always in the competition. You can be super far behind going into lap 3. You can be in last place, and then you pull a golden or you pull triple mushrooms, and you can clutch it out right at the end and wind up in a higher spot. It's not an incredibly short track. You know, it's pretty decent length for online. You know, I got my critiques about Grumble Volcano, but it's a pretty fun track online. I gotta acknowledge that this is just a really fun online track. It's a pretty silly one because so much of it is decided by the shortcut, but it's just so much fun. It doesn't matter that it's so determined by items and by the shortcut because it still doesn't feel unfair. Like, if you choose to bag for a mushroom, that's actually like a strategic thing here. It's not like Luigi Circuit. You gotta bag, and then you gotta make the shortcut, and then, you know, you have to time your respawn boost. And even then, it's not like it saves a ton of time. GV is the kind of track where a lot of times the race will be super separated, but, you know, you're always in the competition. You can always wind up getting a spot or two from that shortcut right at the end. So, it's really fun. I mean, I'm kind of rambling on this one, but I give it a 4 out of 5 for online. It's a blast. What can I say? For time trials, it does have its issues. So when you're playing no glitch, it's really hard to get a grasp on. Very bumpy, similar to Koopa Cape, where you're just losing time all the time and it's hard to figure out where. There's a couple different shortcuts, and don't quote me on this because I'm not sure if I'm correct, but I believe the world record shortcut has a frame perfect hop. It might be a frame perfect hop. It's very difficult. And then there's like the easier method where you just do like a little, you know, mud shortcut. Either way, it's hard to play. It's fun. It's fun when you sort of get into a groove and you're playing well, but there's just always time to save on this one, and that can be intimidating. But the one thing that I think just carries Grumble Volcano as a time trial track, it's gotta be that glitch. So not only does Grumble Volcano have the earliest discovered ultra shortcut in the game, but it also has the fastest ultra in the game. It's the shortest category, and if you just look at it, I mean, just look at it. Just watch. This is crazy. It's one of those beautiful moments where you're asking why on earth they let this slide, but it's super cool. I get such a kick out of it. And it's fun to play. It's a really fun ultra. I think it's really cool. I think it's really fun. I think if this track didn't have the glitch, I would probably give it like a 2 out of 5. But because it's got that glitch, and that glitch is just so cool, I gotta give Grumble Volcano a 4 out of 5 for time trials. Phenomenal glitch. Okay track. Any track with a glitch that shortens the track to 15 seconds, that's gotta be a pretty impressive glitch, okay? Just saying. This gets a 4 for time trials and a 4 for online, giving it a grand total of 8. I think it's gonna go right there. So we got DS Desert Hills. Most people think this track is terrible online. I think it's okay. Nintendo just decided to put way too many item sets for this track to play normally. If this track had half as many items, it would be so much better. But unfortunately, lots of items. There's sand shortcuts that you can always be taking, especially the sand shortcuts right at the end. You have the hill bounce shortcut, and then you have like the little last turn that saves a bunch of time. Unfortunately, this track is left up to items a lot. Actually, driving the track is very satisfying. Like, there's terrain and you're going up and down and stuff, but it doesn't feel super crazy bumpy like, you know, like Treeway or like Grumble or like Koopa Cape, but it's too broken to use the sand shortcut. It feels like it's totally free to make as well. If you're in 10th place and you pull a golden or even triple shrooms and the race is close and you're right at the end, you'll probably get a top 3 spot or maybe even win. It just saves so much time and it's right there. I'm trying to think of how they could fix this track. If the sand shortcut was in the middle of the track instead of right at the end, and the amount of item sets was like 1 or 2 item sets in the whole track, this track might be a 5 out of 5 for online. Unfortunately, I just can't give it that. It doesn't deserve it. It's not as bad as a lot of people say, but it's at least fairly bad. I'm gonna go ahead and give Desert Hills a 2.5 for online, and I feel like I'm being kind of nice with that, but 2.5 for online. Time trials though. Ooh, delicious time trial track. This track is so much fun to drive. I don't even know, man. It just is great. And yeah, there's some bumps and there's terrain and a little bit of QM stuff here and there, but for the most part, it feels like a very consistent track for time trials. You got the hill shortcut at the end. You can get a lucky hill shortcut. That's what it's called. Or you can get a normal one. The lucky one is a lot faster, as I'm sure you could have guessed. So I guess if you're playing at like tip-top level, it's probably annoying because it's a random thing. You could have a great run going up to the very end and then get a bad shortcut. Even if you get the shortcut right, it doesn't like save as much time. You can lose time there. There's also a little vehicle diversity here. This track historically has actually had at least one Spear world record. It might have had a bunch, but I know that in the worldwide top 10 currently resides Cole's former world record that he set on the Spear on Desert Hills. So Spear and Flame Runner can play this track, which is really cool. You know, none of the turns are super sharp, but it's like the Flame Runner still is the world record vehicle right now, but like theoretically, technically, in the far off future, it'll probably be Spear again. I like tracks like that, where it's close enough to where there's some diversity in the vehicle, even if it means slightly different strats. It still has little problems here and there, but wait 1 minute, because it makes up for those problems with a glitch category. This glitch category took like 5 or 6 years, I think, to discover, and honestly, I don't know why. It seems like it's a pretty obvious one, where instead of taking the big round turn right at the beginning, you just clip off of the wall and you like fly over the lake. And I'm surprised it's even faster than just doing the sand cut at the end. Anyway, it's pretty cool. It's satisfying to watch like a fast glitch category like this. It's a pretty easy wall to clip, but it's still like you're just going into it, barely getting any time to align, so it's neat. But if one glitch wasn't enough, this track just needs to be unique in as many ways as possible. There is actually another glitch category, and it's not just a simple wall clip. This is actually an ultra shortcut, and the ultra shortcut is really weird. So you have to use the shooting star, and then you have to go around the first, the lake, but then you go back and you clip off of the red pipe, and you like fly up into the air, and I think you go over a checkpoint, if I'm not mistaken, and then you land at the end, and you get a lap count, which is just, I mean, it's incredible. First of all, you use the shooting star. Who remembers, like, a couple years ago when this thing was good for nothing? I mean, it's made its way into so many different tracks. We'll get to at least one other outside drift bike track in this video, but man, the shooting star, it's a fascinating... Outside drift is fascinating, but because the shooting star is worse than the Flame Runner, it actually is only faster to do the ultra shortcut for a fast lap run. If you're doing 1 lap time trials, you're trying to get the best flap time you can, the ultra shortcut is great for that, but it doesn't save time if you're going for a 3-lap run. It's just faster to do the regular lake glitch all 3 laps with the Flame Runner. Who would have knew? Who would have knew Desert Hills had so much to offer? Desert Hills is a 5 out of 5. Easy 5 out of 5 from me. I love this track for time trials. Any small complaints I have about it get washed away by the fact that this track has 2 unique glitches. It's super cool. Desert Hills winds up with a nice 7.5 out of 10, combining the time trial and the online score. This track gets to go here. Should I put it above Goldmine? You know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put it here. It goes above Goldmine. It's in A tier. Very respectable 7.5 out of 10. It's a wonderful track. Next up, we got BC3, GBA Bowser Castle 3. So in one big way, this track is similar to Grumble Volcano. It has a huge shortcut that determines the entire race. It's even bigger shortcut than Grumble Volcano has. I mean, when you're playing this track online, there is one thing you need to worry about, and that is making the shortcut. The shortcut here is huge. There's an upside and a downside to this. It's nice to have a way to make a comeback if you fall behind, or if you just want to extend your lead. I mean, it's cool to have big shortcuts. I'm all for that. But the shortcut here is just such a big time save, and it's usually so free. It feels cheap. You know, unlike the rock hop on Grumble Volcano, it's like that shortcut, it feels like it adds to the track. It feels like it makes it more fun, and it feels like it's more of a risk because it's a lot harder. But on Bowser Castle 3, it is very easy to make this shortcut almost every time. That just makes it so you either make the shortcut and get a free, cheap lead, or you fail the shortcut and you feel really frustrated. And it's nice. It's nice in a way because you're always in the competition. Even if you're super far behind, you can pull a mushroom or you can just go all in shroomless and try and make that shortcut. But you know, two sides of the same coin. It also feels really cheap that you can play horrible all race and just make the shortcut 3 times. And you'll probably win if you do that. But shortcut aside, because there's still a lot of track to drive, it's very fun to drive. You know, flat track, lots of just get your mini turbo out as quick as possible and get on a wheelie on the straightaways. It's cool. I like it. The shortcut's got a lot of good and a lot of bad to offer. I feel like it kind of taints the track, but it also makes it cooler, you know? Hopefully I'm articulating myself well here. It's good and it's bad, I guess. I would totally be lying to you if I said it was a perfect track, or if I said I don't have some pretty big complaints about it. But I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5. It's pretty cool. Now, Bowser Castle 3 for time trials. We've already discussed that there's a shortcut here, and obviously there's a shortcut category for time trials. The shortcut on this track is a lot of fun for time trials, if we're talking just the regular, sort of easier method. Especially if you're going for it fast. It's a very satisfying category to, like, get better at and really practice and just work on improving. Not quite as fun when you're going for the bigger shortcut. You can try and like slow down before it and take a second to align, but then you don't even end up really saving time over the regular shortcut. And then, you know, the faster you go, the more inconsistent and almost random it feels going for the bigger shortcut. Once again, the shortcut has good and bad to offer for time trials as well. If we're talking no shortcut, just playing the track without it, because that's a separate category, it is very fun. Very nice to have a track where it's lots of straights and just get your mini turbo out as quick as possible and try and get chain wheelies. I like that about this track. Now there's one thing about this track that sort of just throws a wrench in it, you know, messes up what would be a beautiful picture, and that is the low tricks. There's a little island section where you go off these yellow ramps and you can get tricks or you can just bounce over them. The time trial strat, and it's not very hard, is to hop right before you hit the yellow ramps and then trick, and you can get what is called a low trick, where you trick, but you don't get a lot of air and you land sooner, so it's faster. And the low tricks save a lot of time, which is why it's frustrating, because you pretty much need to use them, but they're very easy to mess up, especially if you're playing with nerves. If you have any pressure on you, like if you're going into lap 3 with a really killer pace, and then you get to the low tricks, I mean, you can trick too low, where you hit the edge of the next island and that loses time, or where you just fall straight into the lava if you don't have enough speed. Or you can miss the low trick altogether and get a bunch of air and just lose what would be free time. And, I mean, it's not that they're hard, it's just that they're hard to get right every single time. It hurts the track. I mean, I know it would be less fun if you got the low tricks every single time, but maybe if they were just a little bit more consistent, it would be better. Maybe I just need to practice more, but for the time being, I don't really like that about the track. I do like the low trick off of the big trick ramp, just because it looks cool. I don't usually do it, but I like it. It's pretty neat. That's pretty much all I got to say for BC3. If it wasn't for the low trick, I think I'd be able to give it a 5 out of 5 for time trials, but I kinda can't, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 4. Still a great track, still a great time trial track, and a great track overall. That's a 7.5 combined score, which cracks it into our A tier. And I think it will go right there. We have DK Jungle Parkway. So talking Parkway Online, it's a pretty good length, very long track, but it feels very linear. It feels like it doesn't feel like there's a lot of grass shortcuts you can take, which is ironic because it's in the jungle. I mean, there's a path and you have to follow that exact path, and there's nowhere where you basically have to make decisions. It's like, no, you are going on the same trip everyone else is going on, and that is it. You can take the mud shortcut at the very end. That's pretty much all the freedom you get here. Everyone's just stuck on a long, boring, kind of stupid path. Oh, and did I mention that there's a stupid amount of items on this track? Yeah, they're everywhere. In this case, which I would consider a rare case, I think that actually helps the track, just because otherwise it'd be a lot of long, boring driving on just, going back and forth on the turns and the straightaways and just sort of waiting for it to be over. Having some item chaos here, you can afford for it to be a little chaotic. I mean, it helps the track out a little bit. Ultimately, I don't think this is a good track online. I think it's a fairly bad one. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 2 out of 5. I'll respect the length of the track. I think that's cool. You know what? No, I take that back. I'm actually giving it a 1.5 out of 5 because I just remembered that turn after the cannon. It's such a dumb turn. You can't even take it on a bunch of vehicles. You have to like stop and stand still, or you just take a super wide turn. Sometimes you'll even get like stuck up in the grass. It's horrible. It's awful. Yeah, this track online, 1.5. Now this all being said, Parkway and time trials, that's a different story. So I mentioned that it feels boring to just be driving along, super lots of turns, and it's like nothing's really happening, and it's all one path. But for time trials, that's kind of how it is anyways. I mean, you're always driving the same paths, and you're always doing the same stuff because you want to have consistency, you want to be doing the same thing every time. So Parkway doesn't really stick out, there's nothing making it more boring than the other tracks, I guess is what I'm saying. But this track is actually pretty unique because the off-road, the grass, is raised. So when you're on the road, if you want to take the turns as tight as possible, you kind of got to deal with a little terrain, and it's tricky, but it adds a little bit to the track. It's a little tiny bit of technique you got to work out there. And I think that actually, I know it's a silly thing to even mention, but I think that adds to the track. I think it's cool. The shroom strat at the very end is really cool looking, but it's also really hard. The length for a time trial, it's what, like a little over 2 minutes? 2 minutes 10 seconds is the current world record, and I mean, hey, what can I say? It's a cool track. I like it. I think it's great for time trials. And to make it even greater, it has glitch shortcuts. And yes, I said shortcuts plural. For years, I think starting in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, there was the spiral skip shortcut, where you'd skip the spiral. Duh. And it only saved a tiny amount of time. It was not substantial at all. People barely played it. You'd see world records very rarely, but it was barely any different from the no glitch category. Now, things changed in 2015 when the ultra shortcut was discovered. All of a sudden, the track, very quickly went from being over 2 minutes to being less than 1. The ultra shortcut, it's a really cool one. You clip off the tree, and then you hit the banner, and you fall through the ground, and it's cool. It's really cool. There's actually a separate method as well of doing the ultra shortcut. Fundamentally, it is a completely different cut, even though you're still hitting all the same checkpoints. It's weird. It's almost like the track has 2 completely separate ultra shortcuts. If it was just the no glitch category, I'd probably say it's like a 4 out of 5. Driving it's relatively fun. But with all the glitchy stuff here, this track is pretty cool. It's got a lot to offer. I'm going to go ahead and give DK Jungle Parkway a 5 out of 5 for time trials. It truly is a great time trial track. Might not be incredible for online. It's great for time trials. Combining online with time trials, it gets a 6.5. And you know where 6.5s go. 6.5s go in B tier. Above Daisy Circuit. Yeah, that's good. We have GCN Mario Circuit for our next track. The track is pretty straightforward online. There's a lot of items, more than I think there should be. Maybe get rid of like 1 item set and it'll be a little better. Maybe even, if I recall correctly, yeah, maybe even get rid of 2, actually. This track has way too many items, doesn't it? Anyway, items aside, honestly, I wouldn't have that big a problem with it, but the grass shortcut just saves such a stupid amount of time, and it really makes the track feel way more item heavy than it needs to. It's almost kind of stupid to not just bag before the first item set, especially if you're already behind, to pull a golden, or to pull mushrooms, or to pull something to take that huge shortcut, and then just... it's really too bad. It's too bad, because it's a fun track to drive, but that just takes away from the online experience for sure. You have a huge shortcut that's very easy to take consistently, it's free. So unfortunately, that hurts it online. Yeah, it's really too bad. I gotta give it a 2 out of 5. It still is fun to drive. It's a pretty decent length, but that shortcut, man, it's too impactful on the rest of the track. For time trials, I've heard a lot of people say it's very inconsistent. I think Enmead calls it like GCN slot circuit or something because it's just super hard to play. I don't know what on this track is inconsistent, and maybe that's because I haven't poured a ton of time into it. Maybe at a high level there's certain things you do where it's really risky, and sometimes it works, but other times it doesn't. I don't know. I think the track is pretty decent as a time trial track. I mean, I've never really had any complaints about it. I think 1.5 minutes, pretty solid length, not too long, but also not super duper duper short. It also has a glitch category, probably the silliest glitch category in the entire game, because it's absurdly difficult, very, very precise, and saves almost nothing. I mean, this glitch category gets overlooked a lot. I feel like people forget this one even exists a lot of the time. It is really, really hard. The only person so far to ever do the glitch and actually save time with it has been Logan. We'll see who the second person to ever do it is. I'm sure people will pick it up eventually, but yeah. It's funny, man. It's a pretty funny glitch. But yeah, the track as a whole, wonderful for time trials, not so wonderful for online. We're gonna give it a 5 out of 5 for time trials. I don't see any reason to dislike this track. I don't. And I'm sure one day I'll pour a lot of time into it and I'll regret saying this because I'm sure I'll hate it like everyone else does. But right now, I honestly really like GCN Mario Circuit. No complaints. 5 out of 5. Wonderful track. I think right above Daisy Circuit. That seems good. Next up we have Dry Ruins. It's just one of those tracks where races are never even remotely close. It's really hard to play. And I guess maybe it's just because I'm bad and I don't like super hard tracks, but I don't know, it's frustrating. No part of Desert Hills is fun. There's all sorts of little strats and tiny shortcuts you gotta do to make it work. It's not like there's any, item problem, like the items are too broken here, there's too many item sets. It's not that there's really, it's too short, it's a pretty decent length. And it's not even that there aren't any shortcuts. There's the big sand shortcut right around the finish line. On paper, this track should be good, but it's just bouncy and you lose time everywhere. And it's just really frustrating. The low tricks off the pillars. Sometimes you get low tricks, other times you get blasted off to the moon. Ultimately, yeah, I don't know. It's not fun. I never enjoy playing Desert Hills Online in comparison to other tracks. When it's on the little track selection screen where everyone's voted and it's picking the track, I never once have seen it land on Dry Ruins, and I pump my fist in the air and I start clapping out of excitement because I'm just so happy to play Dry Ruins. I don't think anybody is happy to play Dry Ruins. I think everyone else in the community is lying when they say they like it. I'm kidding about that part, but seriously, this track is not fun online. I'm giving it a 1.5 out of 5. Now, surely a track that's this bad online would be great in time trials, right? I mean, that's usually how it works. So surely this one's gonna have a great time trial score, right? Wrong. This track is absolutely miserable for time trials. I don't hesitate to say this is the worst time trial track in the entire game. There's so many things that are inconsistent. No part of this track is consistent. None of it. So let's just walk through it. You start, you take the first turn, and already you have to do the sand hop. Now, if you want to do the sand hop the fast method, you just drift into it and hope you get air. You probably don't get air, so you reset. Let's say you try again, this time you just do the hop. Sometimes it works, sometimes you hop into the cactus, other times you don't hop high enough and you just hit the dirt. Sometimes you land and you start the drift and you hit the wall. In all of these situations, you need to reset. So let's say you make it past the sand hop, the first turn of the track. Now, it's satisfying to hit the pillar tricks successfully. You probably won't, you'll probably mess them up, and then you'll need to start over again. Let's say you make it past the pillar tricks one of these times. Then you have to do the wall glitch. So you do the wall glitch. Oh, no you don't, you fail. Whoopsie, you gotta start over again. So you do all of this stuff again, you make it to the wall glitch, and one of these times you succeed. After this, you need to shroom using this little, slope here, I guess, as a ramp, and you gotta land up here on the side of the wall, and then you use 2 shrooms to get around this. The odds that you don't either hit the wall, fall off, or hit the tree, I mean, it happens almost every single time. But in the event that you actually get this little shortcut done with, you still have to drive 2 more laps shroomless. There's just a lot of inconsistency here. I mean, that's the point I'm trying to make with this whole little dialogue. It's not fun. In the first part of this tier list, I complained about Yoshi Falls because I was saying that it's inconsistent, I was saying that there's a lot of stuff you can't control, and I was saying that that's frustrating. But you know what? At least with Yoshi Falls, that stuff ends up actually being kind of exciting. When you're on lap 3 and you get a bridge stick, it's a bit of a rush because it means you very well might have a great run on your hands. Stick! Okay, maybe? No. Wait. Please. Let's go! Yes, dude! And yeah, it's a bummer when that stuff doesn't go well, but at least there's something to kind of look forward to with Yoshi Falls. With Dry Dry Ruins, it feels like there's just so much stuff, and you know what? I don't like it. I don't like playing Dry Dry Ruins at all. To illustrate my point, to make my point so aggressively clear, I'm actually going to bend my own rule, and I'm giving this less than 1 point. For time trials, I'm going to be giving Dry Dry Ruins 1/2 of a point. That means grand total it winds up with 2 points out of 10. That's 1.5 for online and 0.5 for time trials. Dry Dry Ruins is good for nothing. And you know what? I'm putting it below Yoshi Falls. Moonview Highway. Now we seriously need to talk about Moonview Highway Online because what is with this section? This track has a plethora of boost panels, especially here. Like, seriously, what are these for? Who asked for this many? This might not seem like a big deal, but it makes certain items completely useless on this section of the track. It's a bummer to pull a golden mushroom in 10th, only to know that you can't pull another item until you're done using it, and you have absolutely no advantage over the guy who's in first who just got to cruise through all the same boost panels as you. He just gets to cruise through all the boosts and coast across the finish line. Well, so long as he doesn't hit any cars. Oh yeah, the cars. Those stupid cars. You never know for sure if there's one right around the bend waiting to squash you and kill your race. Now technically they are consistently on the same cycle every race, so you could just memorize their patterns and always know where they are. This is a lot more feasible in time trials, which we'll get to, but there's simply too many variables online for you to always know where the cars are. It's specifically the ones around the blind turns that are such a problem, because you don't know they're coming until it's too late. This all being said, even with the boost panel thing aside, the cars really do a number on what would have been a decent online track. However, because of the circumstances, I just never look forward to playing this one online. Gotta give it a 1. But we got some good news here. The cars aren't nearly as bad in time trials. In fact, they actually add a lot to the track in a unique way. Just barely beating car cycles to save lots of time is a huge thrill. They still have their problems. It's pretty rage-inducing to fail a great pace on lap 3 to a car you barely couldn't get around, but in time trials, you start to get used to the car patterns since the cars always start from the same position. They'll always have the same timings in time trials, so you'll be able to memorize where certain cars are at certain times. Online, because the inconsistencies added when playing with other players and with items, this isn't something you can really do. Besides everything about the cars, the track is simple but a lot of fun. Great layout, very fun to drive. I'm gonna give it a solid, respectable, decent 4 out of 5 for time trials. Its online score is pretty horrible, but this gives Moonview a total of 5 points. It's gonna be C tier. I mean, I definitely like it more than Maple Tree Way. Do I like it more than Sherbetland? Yes. Do I like it more than the Ouija Circuit? Yes. Not more than Shy Guy Beach. That's where it goes. Next up, we got Bowser's Castle. This track is incredibly popular online, and I don't really get the hype. Don't get me wrong, it's pretty fun. I like the glitch in particular. It's really hard to get consistent at it, but it's really rewarding since it can be done without a mushroom. On the other hand, parts of the track feel almost a little bit claustrophobic. The first couple of turns in the castle can be hard to manage when there's other players right around you. This one turn is also really dumb. It's like repellent to any unique vehicles since the turn's just really hard to make without either having really good drift or just slowing down. I don't have any big complaints at the end of the day for this one. I mean, I think it's kind of overrated. You know, people act like this is just the greatest thing to ever come out of Nintendo. But you know, I think this track's okay. You know what? Yeah, I'd say it's pretty good. I'd give it a 4 out of 5. For time trials, there's a lot of little techniques you need in order to get a really good time. It's like a much less exaggerated Dry Ruins, because unlike Dry Ruins, the track is still kind of fun. It's really difficult, but you can typically see what you're doing wrong. Like if you mess something up, it's not just a mystery. You know, if you don't get a drift out or you get wheelie locked or something. I mean, this track is a lot easier to read and tell what's going on, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like any other track, it gets more enjoyable the more you play it, because you really just learn it and you know the track inside and out. I mentioned the glitch before. That gets its own time trial category, which is pretty cool. Really fascinating to look at people doing the flame runner method, like super quick and again, no shroom. And it saves a lot of time. It's pretty neat glitch. And kind of similar to Desert Hills, there's also a version of the glitch that's only used for individual lap runs. So I think so far the only person that actually has a time with it is King Alex. But basically, he uses the spear, and he does the regular glitch shroomless, and then he does like this turn skip thing right at the end where he flies through the ceiling of the castle. It's really cool. It only saves a little bit of time, and I don't think it's viable with Flame Runner, which is why it's not done in a 3-for-3 run. But it's still pretty neat. I haven't actually played it, so I don't have an opinion on whether or not it's fun to play, but playing the regular track and playing the glitch category for 3-lap, they're fun. They're really hard. It's really hard to get a grasp on. It's a very technical track. That's basically my opinion on Bowser's Castle. It's a really cool track, but it's also really difficult. I can't say I would love to sit down and play it all day long, but it's decent for time trials. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Its combined score is a 7 out of 10, which means it is yet another B-tier track. And it's yet another track to beat Toad's Factory. Right there. Next up on the list, Rainbow Road. For online, this is just one of those tracks you really gotta be good at to enjoy it. Either you're the one getting bumped off 5 times per lap, failing the little shortcut before the cannon, or you're the one demolishing the competition, front running with a 10-second lead. There's no such thing as a close race on Rainbow Road. On the bright side, weirdly, the constant fear of getting bumped off actually makes this track more exciting. You never want to get caught off guard, since you can almost always fall off and the track is home to some of the worst respawn points in the game. You always need to take caution here, but it just makes races more tense, and I think that's a good thing. It's far from perfect, but for online, you know what? I think I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. I was going to give it a 3.5. No, let's not get carried away. It gets a 3 out of 5. For time trials, this is currently the only track where a cart has the world record. Currently. There's this wacky shortcut where you skip the first turn, as well as some other weird things throughout the track that just barely make it faster than the bike. And then we got the glitch. The Rainbow Road glitch is probably the most famous, most iconic shortcut in all of Mario Kart Wii, or at least the most iconic one discovered in the last several years. It's got such a storied history. At first it was a spear-only, TAS-only glitch, to a Quacker glitch, to Shooting Star, to Phantom, and now after all these years, we finally have a Rainbow Road glitch world record that does the ultra shortcut on all 3 laps. Truly a testament to the community's efforts over the years. Overall, is it fun to play? I mean, no, honestly, this track kind of sucks when you're actually playing it, but it's so fascinating to see how both the glitch and no glitch categories are just so unique from every other track. It's undoubtedly still very interesting, so for unconventional reasons, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Because, I mean, if it wasn't for all the unique stuff about this track, it'd be a 1. It's not fun at all. But it's really interesting. It's really cool to watch. So for that alone, I'm giving it a couple points. 3 out of 5. Rainbow Road gets a 6 out of 10. Usually it would go in B tier, but I feel like B tier is getting kind of inflated. And honestly, I don't think it really beats Mario Circuit. I mean, definitely not in terms of actually playing it. I think we're going to put this one at the top of C tier. I think that's a good spot for it. Next up, we got good old Mario Circuit 3. Online, it's really item heavy, it's too short, it's a stupid amount of off-road shortcuts. Every time you win, it feels like you didn't deserve it because it's all based on items, and every time you lose, it feels like you didn't deserve it because it's all based on items. There's too many items. This track feels like it's barely even playable. I will say I have no compliments for this track. It gets a 1 out of 5 for online, plain and simple. For time trials, on the contrary, it's the most consistent track in the whole game. It's really fascinating to watch the top runs because, I mean, maybe it's just because I'm, you know, kind of a noob, but it's, you gotta wonder where people are even saving time. It is very, very optimized, and it's super cool. It's fun to drive, Mach Bike or Flame Runner. Mach Bike has an advantage because of the hairpin turn. The shroom shortcut where you go through the dirt, that's pretty fun, pretty satisfying when you do it right, because you could just, that saves a lot more time than it looks like it saves when done correctly over when it's done poorly. Mario Circuit 3, I mean, for time trials, it's a pretty great track overall. It would have been nice if they could add a little bit of something to it, because it is really straightforward. It's super fun to time trial, even from a casual perspective, because you don't gotta worry about like falling off, or most of the time about hitting walls or anything. I'll give it a 4 out of 5 for time trials. It got a 1 out of 5 for online. I'm thinking maybe somewhere in the likes of like here. Probably here. That seems good. I'm gonna have to zoom out a little bit so my whole list is visible. Are we good? Oh yeah, we're good now. We're good. We got 3 tracks left, and our next one is DS Peach Gardens. For how long the track is online, it would be nice if there was at least one more significant shortcut. I mean, it's a great length, because, you know, longer tracks online, that's a good thing. But it's like there's one huge shortcut right in the beginning. It's just a grass shortcut, but it saves, I don't know, at least a second. The one grass cut in the beginning is your best chance at getting ahead, and as long as you don't mess up or get blue shelled, it's pretty easy to keep that lead for just the entire lap until the next lap where other people can do the shortcut. Another cool thing about this track that's kind of unique is very good spots to place bananas. There's these flower beds and you hop over the corners. A lot of times people will leave bananas there, or they'll leave bombs there, or even sometimes fibs, and even though you can see them, a lot of times you'll still hit them. Some good item strategy. You know, you can take the faster route and possibly hit an item, or you can take the slower route and play it safe. Pretty cool. I like that about the track. That shortcut's a little bit weird. Placement's weird. How much time it saves is weird. I don't think it decides the entire race, but I do think it's a pretty big impact, I guess. I don't know, I'm rambling, I'm tripping over my words. This gets a 4 out of 5 for online, it's pretty good. Now for time trials, I do not hesitate to say that this track is truly a top tier track. Very satisfying to control on Flame Runner. Great driving practice that carries over into the other tracks. It's flat, it's consistent, it's just wonderful. And there's some vehicle diversity here too, because there have also been spear and even automatic spear world records over the years. I think the current top 10 has Flame Runner times and spear automatic, if I'm not mistaken. This track is basically the reason why pause buffering became so controversial, because there's one little trick where you want to go from holding hard right to holding hard left in one turn, so people would pause holding hard right and then unpause holding hard left. It also technically has a glitch category that is only there for the fast lap, for the individual lap time, and it is so silly. It is the dumbest glitch in the game. It saves so close to nothing that multiple times the glitch has been beaten no glitch, and then glitch takes the record back. Basically, with automatic spear, which is the meta for the fast lap category, you do the first flower shortcut, you use your second mushroom someplace else, and then right at the end, to cut off one small turn, you can clip a tree. And because you're clipping off a wall, it counts as a glitch. Anyway, it's dumb. It's a dumb category, but it's funny. There's a glitch. There's just great driving. There's vehicle diversity. It's a great length. This track has everything. This track has absolutely everything you could ask for from a time trial track. Easiest 5 out of 5 I think I've given on this whole list. Peach Gardens, beautiful track. And oh, it is so close to being S tier. I mean, it is scraping the ceiling of A tier, trying to climb up one more story and sit up here with its friend Delfino Square, but I'm gonna have to give this top of A tier. Spoiler alert, by the way, Peach Gardens, number 2 track in the whole game. I love Peach Gardens. Online, it doesn't really hold a flame to Delfino Square, but it's great. It's great for time trials. Next up, we got DK Mountain. For online, I would say it's got great length, pretty much exactly what you would want, and it's really fun. It's an inconsistent enough track to the point that everyone is making mistakes. You know, it's like you don't need to be a super ultra mega master at the track to do well online. but having experience still helps you. I mean, you're always going to get bumps and weird QM stuff that throws you off, but everyone will, so it levels out. It's still fair. A little gap shortcut at the end can actually be kind of risky, because if you're surrounded by other people, maybe you'll get bumped or get mega'd or starred. Maybe someone will drop a bomb right there and you can't see it, and like you hit it as you go off. When you do make the cut, you can hit all the item boxes and just kind of troll the people behind you, because they won't be able to get one since the boxes haven't respawned yet. Little strategy I think pretty much everyone does. But on the contrary, you can also hide bananas in there. So if you're trying to take all the boxes, hey, maybe you'll get hit by something. I guess that's a little bit of a risk as well. I think that kind of makes the cut a little bit cooler. Even though it's such an easy shortcut to do, there is still a very tiny risk factor. Then you got the glitch. The glitch is always super exciting to make online. It is allowed. It's allowed for online. It saves a decent amount of time. Most of the time you'll fail it. When you do, it's not like it kills your race entirely, but every now and then you'll pass through, and it's always sick. It's always so exciting and such an adrenaline rush to make the glitch when playing online. The one big flaw this track has online is that bridge at the end, because it's basically designed for you to get bumped off, or for people to leave items, or for people to back spam, and there's like nowhere to go to dodge it. And it sucks, it's right at the end of the track. If it wasn't for that, or even if the bridge was just a little bit wider, I don't think it would be such a problem. But I think this bridge is pretty much universally hated. I don't know anyone who's just a huge fan of the DK Mountain Bridge. And I mean, listen, I think I forgot to mention it earlier. The Parkway Bridge is horrible. You can just put items all over that. It's a nightmare. But at least it's kind of funny. That one also has walls, so even if you hit items, you're not falling off most of the time. Rarely you will, but most of the time you won't. If the bridge on Parkway is a joke, the bridge on DK Mountain is an insult. Without the bridge, I would probably give this either a 4.5 or a 5 out of 5. But I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. The bridge doesn't ruin the whole track. It's not that big a deal. It's a sour sting at the end. Now, when you're time trialing the track, the inconsistencies really come to life, and not in a good way. Everything, you're always just bumping everywhere. Not just on the bridge, although that's a big part of it. Sometimes you get really high bounces that lose time. Other times, maybe you're going down the mountain and some dumb stuff happens. You can hit that chain link fence, and that's not even really random, but it's just one of the least satisfying things in the game, hitting that. I don't know why. That fence in particular is just extra anger inducing. Also, if it wasn't for this one turn, I'm pretty sure this would be a Flame Runner track. This is pretty much it. I don't get Nintendo putting like 1 or 2 really sharp turns on a track. The glitch also feels like a total shot in the dark. Most glitches are kind of like that. You just do the same thing over and over, and eventually it works. But still, there are some consistent glitches that are really cool. It would be nice if this track had one. It does not. The track isn't unbearable, but it could just be so much better. It gets a 2 out of 5 for time trials. That gives it a grand total of 6. That's 4 for online and 2 for time trials. It is going with a bunch of other tracks, I guess, up here in B tier. We'll give Toad's Factory a break. We'll put this behind Toad's Factory. Last track in the entire game, N64, Bowser's Castle. It's a great length for online, longest track in the entire game, and that means almost every race will be going way past 3 minutes, sometimes even past 4. You got a shortcut right before you enter the castle, and then you got another one right as you're exiting. So that's cool. There's 2 spots for a shortcut. You also got a little end shortcut, which is shroomless, and it's pretty consistent once you get it down. It's very easy. But it can be a little bit stressful online, so, make sure you don't mess it up, I guess. There's only a few small places for dumb stuff to happen, but overall, really no complaints here. I think it's a great online track. Yeah, I'll give it a 4.5 out of 5. I don't think it quite gets the perfect 5, but it gets a 4.5. It's pretty good. For time trials, the track is also pretty solid. Sometimes you get random bounces on the bridge that lose you time. These are beyond annoying, because you can lose great paces to that, and it's just totally out of your control. I'm no master of this track, but I've heard from higher level players this is a very common complaint, is the bridge QM, the bounces you get. because it's just totally out of your control and it can gatekeep you from getting really good times. This is also one of the few tracks that I would say is maybe a little too long for time trials. I mean, it's the world record is just over 2.5 minutes, and that gives you a lot of time to get nervous. Like if you're 2 really good laps in and you're coming up on the end, lots of nerves there, you know? Lots of time for those nerves to boil and for you to eventually mess something up. Lots of places to mess things up as well. This track also has an ultra shortcut, which is currently the most difficult shortcut used in any 3-lap world record, and it looks wild. It is truly a thing of beauty. You can only do it 1 time out of the 3 laps because you have to respawn, and then you have to drive 2 laps with the spear. But the glitch is just so cool looking. Honestly, it's pretty much worth it. This track also has a shortcut where you can skip the spiral and respawn. It's barely used. I think it's only faster for individual laps. So, kind of a weird shortcut. Just thought I'd mention it. With this track just being a great time trial track and having one of the coolest ultra shortcuts in the game, and I mean, the hardest 3-lap ultra shortcut currently being used in the game, it's beautiful. It's wonderful. I'm giving this a 4 out of 5 because it has a 4.5 out of 5 for online and a 4 out of 5 for time trials, 8.5 as its final total. That means it is A tier, and I really think it could go above Gorge, but we're just gonna give it here. That seems fair. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. This is our finished tier list. Let me know what you guys think. I'm sure there are going to be people disagreeing with all sorts of these placements, and I'm okay with that. This is subjective. This is my opinion, so people are going to disagree, and that's totally cool. And who knows, you know, maybe sometime I'll make another one. This is my 2024 edition, my current experience with the game. This is where I place the tracks. I would love to hear what you have to say, so please, if you have any thoughts, let me know down in the comments section. Till next time, I love you guys, and I thank you for watching this video. I hope to see you in the next one.